Hello malty, meticulous meandering malt mates, I'm Ralphie in the bothy. This is Ralphie Review 902 Extras. Extras means you're getting a little extra content relating to fine quality spirits, usually Scotch whisky, but not always. But before I go any further, a big thank you to Oliver Fritsch for that malt mention. Thank you, Oliver. Now folks, in my last review, 902, I highlighted an independent bottling from a small independent bottler based in Scotland of a Caribbean rum, cask strength, produced in Barbados at the Foursquare Distillery and then transported probably to Liverpool, because a lot of Caribbean rum ends up in Liverpool. And then after 8 years of being matured in Barbados, this rum was matured for a further 5 years in the UK in ex-whisky casks. In other words, this is a whisky cask finished rum. It's affordable. The bottling is got no packaging. It's practical. It's informative. It's simple. There's no flannel. There's no fuss about it. It's just a great sipping rum at a practically presented at an affordable price to the market. Now here in Ralphie Review 902, I'm going to present a different kind of presentation of rum, which is more ornate and has a more complex backstory to it. And it's really just to give particularly whisky drinkers, because I know that most of my audience are whisky drinkers, although I'm always delighted to have the rum rascals in to see what this pesky whisky drinker's doing with the rum reviews. I have a bottle of Mount Gay Barbados rum. Mount Gay is another distillery on Barbados, one of 4. And it's the oldest continuous running distillery in the world. Just to let you know, so it's got some real historical context here, Mount Gay. However you find it, however it's packaged, I can assure you, you won't find a bad bottle of Mount Gay rum. Everything they produce is good quality. Certainly the simpler, cheaper, more available rums, they are for mixing. They can be sipped. They're full of flavour. They're not messed about with. These are rum producers who produce real rum, and everybody knows it, and nobody can deny it. So good for Mount Gay. The rum world is all the richer and of better quality for their presence. Now, when I bought this, it simply appeared out of the blue in UK online retailers. And this is part of a series called the Master Blender Collection. Now this is a particular showcase quality sipping rum, and it is expensive. This cost me £140. Now that's a lot of money. It's probably arguably one of the most expensive rums I've ever bought, but when I describe the flavour to you, you'll get some context as to why I bought it. True, when you're paying the price for it, you're paying for a heavy duty fancy cardboard box, but it is a limited edition bottling from the official producer, and they're using it really as a presentation showcase for their brand. It's not something I would normally buy, but curiosity get the better of me, to be honest. It's got a simple elastic clasp attachment, cardboard, heavy duty. You could keep it to store nuts and bolts in. To be honest, it's not one of these containers that I would throw away because it's really quite attractive. When they say limited edition, it's part of a series of the Master Blender collection, which it states on the front label, where the blender at Mount Gay has been exploring different permutations to influence the Mount Gay rum profile in a top quality manner to create something that is going to be collectible, is going to be sippable by those who've got a bigger budget, and is going to be an absolute showcase of refreshingly new flavours from a well-themed, profiled distillery, which we've not really encountered before. And with this particular bottling, what they've done is they've used a new type, a new source of oak. Now, the most of the oak used for maturing rum in the Caribbean comes from the United States. So it's American white oak casks. And that will have its own particular consistent influence on the production of rum. However, there are oaks growing all over Central and South America. And they have sourced oak from the Andes, called Andean oak. And I was really curious about it because I know that if we were to say use Mizunara Japanese oak or Hungarian oak, Mongolica oak in a whiskey, you would get significantly different flavours and influences on a Scotch whisky. And here's the rum producers now doing it. And I have to say, mission accomplished. This is a 5-star rum. Bit more information for you. It's bottled at 48%, and it's a single batch of rums distilled twice in traditional copper pot still, aged for 14 years in ex-bourbon casks. So there's the American cask influence, as I mentioned earlier, which is the routine system for maturing rum, but finished for 11 months in virgin Andean oak casks. Now, the Andes being mountainous, sorry Dalek, you've got high altitude oak, so you're going to get more resinous oak and probably more aromatic oak because it's slower growing. And I'm sure they had a problem working the wood into casks. It wouldn't surprise me if they'd used inner staves, to be honest. It would have been a very practical solution, but they're saying that they created these Andean oak casks, and you immediately notice it on the nose. This really comes across like a fine cognac, to be honest. It's that good. It was expensive, but do you know what? I tossed a coin. Heads I would buy, tails I wouldn't. It came up heads, and I'm glad I bought it. It was expensive, but you're getting what you're paying for, and it really shows immediately you put your nose to the glass. I'm honestly smelling a rum here that I've never actually smelled before in my life. There's a slight icing sugar note covering over the signature of Mount Gay rum. That energetic, fresh sugar cane spiciness that you get. But here it's got almost like cola cubes, pineapple chunks. There's that sort of aromatic confectionery note, but it's subtle, it's delicate, distinctive, and quite remarkable actually. Even as you put this to your nose a few times, you spot it changing. I mean, if anybody's going to stick Coca-Cola in this, they need their head slapped soundly. That is an absolute shocking waste of a rum. And if I was a bar manager, I would not allow this rum to be sold for mixing at all, only and exclusively as a sipping rum. It's an absolute outrage and a desecration to take the best quality rums of the world and absolutely wipe out their purpose of their production and their creation by just flooding it into a long drink. Rum Rascals, Maltmates, please do not mix up with lemonade and soda water and Coca-Cola or whatever, or even coconut water. Just don't do it, please. These rums are made for sipping. Please sip them. Take your time. Go on the journey. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Whoever's blended this is an absolutely world-class professional blender who absolutely knows the art and absolutely has the skills. How do I know that? It's on the nose. I've not even tasted it yet. It's exciting. It's genuinely exciting to a jaded old single malt whiskey drinker like me. This is fascinating stuff. There's more aromatic coming through now. This little kind of cherry cough linctus lozenges. I better have a taste. The length of the rival is remarkable. It is an absolute conundrum of intensity and delicacy in tandem together. The arrival, complex spiciness, allspice, the gentlest, most ethereal of cinnamon, the most tangy and delicate touch of cloves, and almost a touch of pickled banana and pineapple pie with a dressing of espresso coffee. You can't pick out these different notes easily because the whole experience is homogenized. That's just on the arrival. Once we get into the development, exquisite, complex, sweet and sour. Muscovado. Pepper, green pepper. Softest, tangiest ginger. Vanilla, subtle vanilla. Shy vanilla. Beautiful soft toffee, sweet and sour, dry, touch of bitter. Full sensation range in just the toffee note alone. And then the finish, it's so soft. So it's like a small wave lapping in the sunset onto a sandy beach. It's just a ripple of a finish. But after the arrival, after the development, it's just so appropriate. And what I'm saying here, the composure of this rum is fabulous. Now, I'm going to add water to this now, but very little. 1 milliliter. I already know, because I've been spending a bit of time with this rum, that it just kind of kicks it open a little bit and it starts to bring out that aromatic, intense Andean oak. It's one of the finest rums I've ever encountered. You know, you're thinking, it's rum, it should be sweet. When's it going to be a little bit sweet? When's it going to be a bit too sweet? But it never gets there. Not once. The composition is outstanding. Won't be a minute. The arrival softens. The flavour range is still there. The development becomes a little more expressive in the aromatic scale. The aromatic goes right across the roof of your mouth. Gingeriness, vanilla. The spiciness diminishes. So, just for the record, you might prefer this neat. In fact, even better, have 2 glasses, one neat and one with a drop of water in it to contrast and compare. The finish, a little creep of grapefruit rind and oil into the finish. It's a remarkable rum, and I'm going to do something unusual here. I'm not going to give it a rum mark, and I'll tell you why. Because as soon as I do, I give a definitive, tangible, single point of reference as to the quality of this. But I want to do things a little bit differently. I just want to tell you it is a world-class, remarkable rum, outstandingly well put together, and that if you can find a bottle and it's affordable to you, don't pass it by. It's an expensive rum, but you never know when you're going to be able to pick this up at auction, for example, or perhaps there'll be another bottling in the series from Mount Gay, which is as equally dynamic and interesting, but I'm focusing specifically in this one and just enjoying it as a marvellous, distinctive, characterful alternative to the single malt Scotch whiskies that I'm generally used to. But I'll say I'm not going to give it a mark. I'm going to give it 5 stars, absolutely 5 stars, and encourage you, whatever you drink, whether it be bourbon or rye, whether it be brandy or just Scotch whisky, until you experience this kind of rum, you do not know what you're missing by ignoring the rum landscape. There's some remarkable rums out there, and what makes them more spectacular is there's such a distinctive difference to what we're usually acquainted to, whatever we're drinking. I'm Ralphie. I hope you've enjoyed this extras. I know it's got an age statement. I know it's pretty much an integrity bottling of rum, and half of me was saying, well, just go ahead and give it a mark, but I think in this instance, no, I just want to give it that little bit of air of mystery rather than just give that absolute simple shorthand definitive point of reference. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review, this extras. I'd conclude by saying that I will be talking about other subjects relating to rum in my next rum series, which will be kicking off next year, early next year. And I'll be talking about the ethics of rum production and how the rum drinkers need to give every encouragement when rum producers want to go back to organic production of sugarcane harvests, when they are investing in biodiversity, when they're getting away from the dependence on pretty heavy-duty chemicals for the treatment of their sugarcane. This conversation is a big one, it's a serious one, and it's really ramping up at this moment in time because it needs to, and I'll be discussing about it. I will be discussing it in my next mini review of rums. Look forward to you joining me then, Rum Rascals. And as whiskey drinkers watching, I hope you've got something out of this. And I hope that if you're not into rums, I hope it's going to challenge your prejudices. End of. Bye-bye.